Episode 33.
This is John Pollock, the CEO of Financial Gravity, and this is a Small Business Puzzle podcast.
Struggling to get your business online? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle podcast. Now, here's your hosts, Michael and Teresa Blaze.
Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle podcast. I'm Michael, and I'm here with my better half, my wife, my business partner, and the love of my life, Teresa.
Hello, everybody.
So, Teresa, we're continuing to do the interviews. I hope you guys are enjoying it. We've got a really good interview today.
Indeed. This is a guy that we've been following for a while. He's been around the internet marketing spaces for a long time. So this is a really good interview. We cover all sorts of things. So, Mike, who do we got today?
We have Paul Colligan.
Okay, and who is Mr. Paul Colligan?
Paul Caligan helps others leverage technology to improve themselves and broaden their audience with reduced stress and no dramas. He does this with a lifestyle and business designed to answer the challenges and opportunities of this new economy. If you're looking for titles, husband, father, YouTube expert, director of content marketing for instantcustomer.com, CEO of Colligan.com. He lives in Portland, Oregon with his wife and daughters and enjoys theater, music, great food, and travel.
With that, guys, here is Paul Colligan.
Good morning, Paul. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, man, I'm doing fine. Now that I'm finally here, I'm good. This is my first time checking out Zencaster, so we'll see how this does for everybody. Great concept, but like all great concepts in life, it's all about the execution, so we'll see how this works.
Oh, quite agree. I guess we're going to start because you've done more than a few things, and our audience is more entrepreneurs, business owners, podcasters. And so I just want to give the floor to you. If you had one message you wanted to give to our audience, what would it be?
Leverage the tech to do your bidding.
Okay, meaning?
There's really, in the grand scheme of things, there's two approaches to technology. I really believe you can take the world and just divide it right down the middle. Those who deep in their hearts believe that tech is here to make our life easier, and those who deep in their hearts believe that tech is here to make our lives harder. I honestly believe at the core, Microsoft, their belief is tech is here to make our life harder, and the entire Microsoft business plan is around taming the tech, fighting the demons for you, if you will. Whereas I think Apple at their core, their feeling is, man, we've got this tech, let's do some really, really cool things. And I think small business people are in a really interesting situation because we have this whole world of technology available to us. I mean, look at us right now. We're recording this show, on a piece of software available on a browser. I could be doing this on a $150 Chromebook if I wanted to. I mean, it's amazing what's out there. But what happens is does the tech do our bidding? I know people paralyzed with fear because they don't have the latest version of Office, or scared to death because they don't understand what their Instagram strategy should be, or unable to progress forward because they haven't picked an email provider yet. And that's not the job. The job of tech is to do our work, not vice versa. And I think this is really, really, really important for everyone, and that's podcasting in a nutshell. That's social media in a nutshell. That's all the stuff I've been doing my entire career online in a nutshell.
That is very interesting. I hadn't even considered the comparison of Microsoft and Apple in that context.
And we know you're an Apple guy.
I'm an Apple guy, but I really did progress there. For a while, it was, what do I do with this? How do I manage this? What happens? How do I make these things go? Mm-hmm. And Microsoft was there for me, and I don't want to make this a Microsoft versus Apple thing. I mean, what's really funny right now, we could spend hours on how actually right now Microsoft is acting kind of Apple and Apple is acting kind of Microsoft in certain areas. But the fact of the matter is we have the ability to choose the tech that we want to work with. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I mean, cell phones. A while ago, now you're both too young to remember this, but there was a time when, the cell phone company owned your cell phone number. And they treated you like crap because they knew you were never going to leave. They knew you were never going to get a new cell phone number because the chaos behind that's just insane. But the second the law changed that let us take our cell phone number with us to whatever company, all of a sudden the costs went down. All of a sudden a whole bunch of other things went down. And we got to a point to where we were in charge as the consumer. And I think we are in charge right now as the small business user. If this piece of tech is working for us, great. If not, we can take and move it somewhere else. If this approach is working for us, great. If not, let's try another approach.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And the thing I'm interested in how a lot of the industries that we are so used to are now being utterly and completely disrupted. I mean, take the hotel industry, for example. Look at Airbnb. I mean, if you really think about it, it's technology that's disrupting all this, and the fact is we can leverage that to our needs and our specific wants in order to grow our business and our personal stuff.
Exactly, and let's take it further because I have a personal story to tell with Airbnb. So I grew up in Europe. My folks worked for the U.S. military. I am planning a big trip with my kids to show them where I grew up. We are so going to Airbnb almost every single element of that trip because when you take kids, you don't want to do hotel. You get 2 different rooms. You never get the adjoining rooms. It's a big mess. 4 people in the hotel restaurant is going to cost you more than you necessarily want to afford. You just sometimes want to go to the grocery store, get a box of cereal and some milk kind of thing. So Airbnb is going to be the salvation. But here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to do my homework. I'm not going to pick an Airbnb that doesn't have at least 100 reviews. And the reviews have to be real. The reviews not have to look fake. And I'm going to go to Europe better. I'm going to go to Europe cheaper. And I'm going to go to Europe more informed and probably have a better experience. Now, I have a friend who loves tech for tech's sake. And he heard about Airbnb. He took his family to Paris, got an Airbnb in Paris, and was like, check this out. I got an Airbnb in Paris. I got an Airbnb in Paris. And then one day, I kid you not, on his Facebook, he posts, hey, anybody know what these bugs are? They're in our Airbnb. Well, they were bed bugs. They were in a disgusting bed bug infiltrated. And here's the thing. I asked him, dude, what were the reviews like? Oh, there weren't any reviews. This guy was a new Airbnb-er. Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Like life is too short to be anybody's guinea pig anymore. And this was Paris. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of opportunities probably. And he picked this one because it looked great, but he just didn't think it all the way through. Wow. And then now what was funny was he was able to use Yelp. Once he realized what it was, he was able to use Yelp, find a hotel 3 blocks away, took his family over there, and then they took a long shower. But Teresa, you're exactly right. Airbnb has disrupted everything, but unless we use it intelligently, it could disrupt us as well. I'm sure after a little time with the bed bugs, nobody was ever thinking that great of Airbnb, but was that their fault?
No.
Airbnb's fault, or was that the fault of somebody not checking the reviews?
You talk about the reviews thing. I mean, it goes back to look at a company like Yelp. There are so many review sites out there. I mean, especially sites for the restaurant industry. The fact is, you look at the stats, more people are now trusting review sites almost as much as they are trusting personal recommendations.
I think it's like 79% if I remember right.
Yeah. So, Paul, let's get it back to the small business owner. Let me ask you this question. If you were going to distill down your message about the tech when it comes specifically to marketing yourself online, going into 2017, what do you believe are the biggest trends that we need to watch out for and or take advantage of?
The biggest trend is we're a connected world. So let me give you a story. This morning I had breakfast with an old friend. And the place that I go for breakfast all the time is the same place. And this place actually burned down in November. They had an accident, and the place burned down, and they're rebuilding the place. And lo and behold, this morning I was faced with, I got to find a new place. When the other place rebuilds itself, I'll definitely go there again. But I had to find a place, so I went to Yelp. I searched breakfast in my area. I found a place with 4.5 stars, and that's where we had breakfast this morning. I don't know if they tried to get the Yelp reviews or if they just did. The place is fine. It's honestly not going to get my business once the other place comes back. But the fact of the matter is it's a connected world. People make decisions on breakfast based on a connected world. A lot of decisions based on a connected world. So the big trend is it's a connected world. If you're in an industry where Yelp's a key player, be part of the game. If you're in an industry where Yelp isn't a key player, don't worry about it. That's the big thing. If you're in an industry where a Facebook page makes a lot of sense, get one, do it right. If you're in an industry where Facebook is just silly, don't do it. For restaurants, as an example, I've never followed a restaurant on Facebook. That's just silly. But boy, I've checked my Yelp reviews. Now, I had a guy, Heidi and I went out to the coast about 2 years ago. And it was the first time without the kids for one reason or another. And Heidi goes, where do you want to have dinner? And I go, well, someplace that doesn't have a kids menu. And we found a place that was Cuban food. I love Cuban food. And it had a rum punch. I love rum punch. And it had great reviews. I'm like, oh, this is everything I want. We go. We have an amazing dinner. And then Heidi loves brownies, loves chocolate. That's one of her favorite things in the world. The guy has the brownie a la carte. I'm like, oh, man, we're in heaven. It's a great meal, great price, great food, great ambience, everything you want. We're at the 4 stars. So the guy comes out and asks us how the meal was. And I told him it was great. And then the guy says, how'd you hear about us? And I go, hey, this is my world. I'll tell you, but I want to know, what are you doing for marketing right now? A, it's work and the place is packed. But B, I'm always curious. Mm-hmm. And he looks at me and he goes, well, so I realized a couple of things. He said, I'm at the Oregon coast. I'm not going to get regulars. Oregon coast people tend to all be in this industry. I'm not going to get a lot of regulars. I'm going to get tourists. And the tourists are going to do their homework, which means they're going to check Yelp. But he goes, that's it. He said, so what I do is I cook amazing food. I come upstairs. I ask the people if they like the food. If they said yes, I ask them to make a review. And that's it. Yep. And it's funny because Heidi, my wife, is one of those ones, she's just brilliant and amazing. And she's like, you don't need another blog with my thoughts. You don't need another this with this. Like, people are saying too much, doing too much. We walk out of there and Heidi goes, I'm writing a review. This place is fantastic. And those are the types of reviews that they got for the place. The guy buys no ads. The guy doesn't tip the taxi drivers to bring people there. The guy doesn't know the concierge. He just knows the entirety of his budget. I asked, how is it working? He goes, we're full every night.
Wow.
And that's it. So now we just gave restaurant secrets away. But the thing is, any business, a plumber, where do people find out about plumbers? A lot of times it's recommendations. A lot of times it's people on Facebook. Does anybody know a good plumber? Boy, make it viable. Make it really, really easy for your customer to recommend you. I mean, every time you leave the place, say, hey, by the way, if you recommend me to anybody, dinner's on me next time. That type of thing. That might not even be online. That might even just be, here's my card. Tell me you recommended somebody. If they call in, I'll make sure, send your family a pizza or whatever it is. It just doesn't need to be complicated. And people want to make it complicated. Now, I'll tell you one more story. I got a new client, and we're doing some tracking for this person. And I told the person what I like to track. And I told this person, I said, now let's face it, like, nobody sells a lot of stuff on Instagram. And the client, there's an awkward pause. I go, okay, what's up? And she says, well, we've sold everything on Instagram. I'm like, wow, okay, very cool. And the thing is, so for her, Instagram works. For her business model, for her client, Instagram makes sense. And she's doing killer. So find the platform that works for you. Don't worry about anything else and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I listen very often. In fact, I need to catch up on a few episodes of the podcast report. And what is your other one? Thinking
Out Loud.
Yeah. And on there, you really do talk about some of the stuff. I know you cover a lot of this as well. For the podcasters and the bloggers out there, what do you believe they need to be focusing on that might be different from, say, a local business owner?
First of all, you got to stop with the aim, fire, ready. You got to go ready, aim, fire. A lot of people are fire, aim, ready. And a lot of people build a podcast, build a blog, build something, and then go, how am I going to make my money? Yeah, that's a bad move. Figure out how you're going to make your money, and then figure out if the blog or the podcast or the website's going to do that for you. Nobody in the history of mankind, nobody ever bought a horse and said, okay, how am I going to make money off this? Like, they knew why they were buying the horse.
Right.
Nobody ever built an office and said, how am I going to make money on this? Like, they knew what kind of office they were building. Or they were building an office because they knew somebody wanted to buy it. Because tech is so easy to get into right now, we get it, and then we want things to sort themselves out on the other side, and they don't. And it's a really, really bad idea. So what you do is you sit down, what do I want to do? How do I want to accomplish this? I say, and I stole this largely from a guy named Ed Rush, there's 4 M's in podcasting. And I'd say there's 4 M's in blogging, and I'd say there's 4 M's in writing, and I'd say there's 4 M's in Kindle, and I'd say there's 4 M's in even social if you're looking to monetize. Number 1 is who's your market? And by the way, if you say your market's everybody, you have no freaking idea who your market is. The better you define your market, the more niche you define your market, the better off you're going to be. So what's my market? You figure that out. My market for the podcast report, starting season 4, is people who spend more than $1,000 a month on their podcast. That's my market. First 3 seasons of the show weren't that way. My first 3 seasons were very much for the enthusiast. Now, the cool thing is the show's still going to be ways to think to get to the point to bring yourself to 1,000, but the market is going to be people who spend more than $1,000 on their podcast per month. Now, the message, what's the message for that audience? Now, people spend more than $1,000 a month, they've made their microphone decision. They've decided where they're going to host. They're doing a lot of things. Like, we're not going to have the basic level stuff. The message is going to be, if you do this right, you're going to see crazy, crazy results. So market, message, money. How do I make money on that? Well, here's the thing. If I connect podcasters who actually spend money with tools that actually make money, I'm going to make my money from being the guy in the middle, and I'm going to see transactions from either commission sales, affiliate marketing, or that type of thing. And then the last M is media. What's the media that makes most sense? Well, in this particular case, since it's for podcasters, obviously it's a podcast show. But if my audience was somebody else, maybe it's a Kindle book. Maybe it's a blog. Maybe it's a YouTube channel. Maybe it's, my most recent client's case, an Instagram channel. You got to do whatever makes sense. But who's your market? What's your message? Where's the money? Pick the media. Bam.
And that really, really distills anything that you want to do down.
So we'll just hang up now? We're done? Thanks, Paul. Yeah.
Let's say you understand what those 4 M's. How do you go about defining? Let's say you go, okay, all right, I get it, Paul. I need to define these things. How do I go about defining them?
You got a couple of options, okay? Option number 1 is you just know. I mean, maybe you have the voice of experience. Last December, I was at a mastermind meeting, and a guy that I love dearly, a guy that I would want to be a client, and a guy that I would have a huge smile on my face if he was a client, okay? Boy, that's market research right there. He looks at me and he says, so Paul, should I just listen to your show? And I said to him what I've been saying for a long time, this show's not really for you. The show's more for the enthusiast. And I said that, and I realized that is pretty possibly the stupidest thing I've been saying. Why have I been saying this for 3 years? I got to make the show for that guy. So in that particular case, my experience answered all 4 questions really, really, really quickly. And sometimes if you are experienced in this game, if you've got some life under your belt, if you've got that, you might be able to answer those 4 questions really, really quickly. But here's the thing. Let's say you don't know. Let's say you have no idea. All right, what do you do then? Well, here's the cool thing. This model still works because it's a great way to test. So I live in Tigard, Oregon. Okay? Let's pick a market. People who go to breakfasts in Tigard, Oregon. Okay, what's the message? Our place is the best place to get breakfast. Okay? Where's the money? Well, in getting people to buy breakfast. What's the media? Okay? Somebody might go, I'm pretty sure the media is websites. You type in Tigard breakfast in Google and nothing good comes up. The media is websites. Here's what you do. You try a couple of months of the media as website. See how it goes. And it's going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to go well or it's not going to go well. If it goes well, keep doing it. If it doesn't go well, say, all right, what's going on here? Does my website suck? Is it SEO, or maybe does my audience not go to websites? Now, the cool thing is, while you're doing this, you're currently running a restaurant. So while you're doing this website test for a couple of months, I came in today, had my buddy there. We spent probably $25 on breakfast. Hey, how did you hear about us? Hey, how do you normally hear about breakfast places? What's the most important thing for you making a decision here? Like, she could do a little bit of review. She didn't want to be so pushy, smarty. She'd go, hey, would you like to go home with a cinnamon roll? I just got a couple of questions for you. I'd love to give you a cinnamon roll for that. Something like that. Like, that would be really, really, really easy. So if you know what you're doing, just draw it all out. If you don't, draw out your best guess and then just test and see if it works. There have been podcasters who've been podcasting for 8 years waiting for something to change, and it's not gonna. But if you answer these 4, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going wrong.
That is really cool.
That's cool, Paul.
Yeah.
That's really helpful, actually. I mean, I think we're at a stage ourselves where we're going, is the message that we're putting out there, is it resonating?
Matching the market.
Yeah, is it matching our market? Where we thought small business owners, and then we realized, well, wait a sec, with some of the connections that we've got, a lot of our people that listen to our podcast are podcasters. So we want to focus more at podcasters now. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, do you have a mailing list?
We've started one.
Okay.
We haven't. Our biggest thing is just getting people to respond.
Okay. Do you have more than one person on the mailing list?
At present, no.
Okay. Well, first of all, next couple episodes for the show, give a reason to get on the mailing list. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's do that for this episode. Let's do a special deal here, okay?
All right.
Let's do this, all right? We're recording this in January of 2016. It's probably going to come out in February of 2016.
Correct.
My book, How to Podcast 2016, has stayed top 5 Amazon podcast books for like the last year.
Okay.
The 2017 version is coming out soon.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Whenever I do an upgrade version of the book, one of the things I do is I let anybody who bought the book previously, I have a one-day special quiet sale at Amazon where the book is only 99 cents.
Okay.
Okay? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clue you guys into this. All right? Now, the only way you're going to be able to get on this list is by visiting your website
Okay.
and signing up for the newsletter.
All right.
Okay? Now where are they going to go? And maybe you'll add this in post-production, but where are they going to go to sign up for this?
sbppodcast.com/newsletter.
Okay. So if you guys want to get my book for 99 cents when it comes out, sbcpodcast.com/newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. You're going to get that information. Now, let me give you a second point. It's not just the book for 99 cents. Whenever I do this, I always do a number one run, and I always give away some sort of crazy bonus for people who buy it in the first week. Usually it's some sort of video training program or that kind of thing. You're going to be able to get in on that as well. So it's not just going to be a $15 book for 99 cents. It's going to be some sort of video thing that I'm going to sell for, probably $100 to $200. You'll be able to get really, really dirt cheap.
Awesome.
Okay? Now, one of two things is going to happen. Okay? You're going to get crap response.
Okay.
Okay? If you get crap response, then your audience really isn't podcasters who are at all even close to being serious.
Okay.
That's a piece of knowledge for you. Okay? If you get great response, you know exactly what kind of audience you have.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now, everybody who responds, because I just gave everybody listening to this a really, really great deal, when they sign up for the newsletter, you're going to ask them a couple of questions. You're not going to do one of these 100-point surveys, but you're just going to ask us, what do you need? How can we get it to you? Something really, really basic, and now you're going to begin to build your audience.
Okay.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
Okay,
Paul.
so guys, basically, if you guys want to be alerted when Paul releases his new book, How to Podcast 217, just go to sbppodcast.com/newsletter, get on that list, and yeah, as soon as it becomes available, you will be notified.
On the 99 cent day.
Mm-hmm.
Which you will not see in social, which you will not see, only people who registered old version of the books or people who are on this newsletter will get that access.
Very interesting. Okay, well.
Okay.
Now let's talk, okay, so I just gave you guys a gift. Great. I love you guys. Glad I could. Now let's talk somebody who says, well, what if I don't know Paul? What if I don't have a starting point like this? Let's talk about some starting points, okay?
Okay.
If you were to say, hey, we're going to do a drawing, anybody who signs up for the newsletter, and we're going to give somebody an iPad. You'd get 1 trillion people who'd sign up for this newsletter. Why? Because everybody likes an iPad. But the iPad has nothing to do with your business. Therefore, everybody who signs up doesn't matter in the slightest. It's an email address, probably a throwaway one.
They just want the iPad.
Exactly. But the offer I gave you is only interested for people who don't think they know everything about podcasting and want to know more. You see, so I just gave away a really targeted gift. And this is what you want to do out there. People like free stuff. You give away a $100 gift certificate to Amazon, everybody wants a $100 gift certificate to Amazon.
Right.
You give a $100 gift certificate towards dental cleaning, now you only want people who want a new dentist. So be really, really, really careful what you give away with. I go to events all the time and I see, put your thing in the fishbowl to win something that has nothing to do with what it is that we're selling. That's just people who like free stuff, which, man, the worst list in the world. So anybody out there who's listening to this, your job is to find something of benefit. And by the way, if you find something of benefit to your audience and you offer it to your audience and you get no takers, guess what? You don't know who your audience is. And whatever you spend on giving that gift is money well spent. That's the best market research you could possibly do.
Let me ask you a question, because you just talked about giving away a 99-cent Kindle book. Is that a strategy, because obviously you've used it in the past, is that a strategy that you have noticed converts well? And what are some tips that you can use if someone wanted to employ that for themselves?
A 99-cent Kindle book is an impulse buy. A free Kindle book is also an impulse buy, but a free Kindle book's free.
Right.
Like there's a very, very big difference. So if I do a one-day push on my book at 99 cents, a lot of people are going to buy it, and it's going to run me up the charts. And I've done this 11 times, and every time I've done it, with my combined influence and whatnot, I've made it to be a number one book at Amazon. So then the next day, when I bring the book up to the average price, I would say the number one best-selling Amazon book, How to Podcast 2016.
Interesting.
So yeah, it works great for me. And by the way, my money, one of my rules with royalties is, don't count on the royalties, but certainly cash the check.
Right.
The money from Amazon's great, but the money I've collected from the newsletter and the email list and that kind of stuff is considerably more. And so, yeah, 99 cents, great. Now, putting your book out for 99 cents forever. This week, Inc. magazine just did an article, the top 61 books, or I can't remember what the number was, that you should read about social media marketing from people who are going to social media marketing world. And now my book has as seen in Inc. magazine.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you this. If they went to see my book and my book was just sitting there for 99 cents, a 99-cent book is only worth 99 cents. That's why they charge 99 cents.
Right.
Right.
So 99 cent is a good deal for a campaign, is a good deal for a single day thing, but I don't think it's necessarily a good deal for long term.
So it would be a good short-term strategy to get people in the door, but not something to move forward with long-term.
Yeah, because here's the problem with the book. Anybody can buy How to Podcast 2016 right now. Why do they have to buy it today as opposed to tomorrow? Why do they have to buy it next Monday as opposed to the week after that? Well, when it's 99 cents, now they got a reason to buy it today.
You can leverage that sense of urgency that people so often use. Now, taking that strategy, how would you apply it to, say, our local restaurant that we've been talking about?
You could have a special day with, $1. Actually, I saw this restaurant. It was the ground floor of a business building, and I noticed as I was checking out, they had a thing that looked like normally where you'd put a stack of muffins, but they were a stack of quiches. And I was curious. I was wondering, is this quiche like a high-protein, no-carb kind of thing for that power user kind of office person? How much does it cost? They were selling them for $2. How much does it cost to make them? You take a restaurant, and you have free coffee day. You have buy one sandwich, get one free day. You have something special one day, and then what you do is you serve an amazing sandwich, and then everybody who gets the amazing sandwich gets a coupon that day that says, come in any time and buy 2 sandwiches, get one free the next time you're here. And then at that point, you fed them sandwiches twice. If they don't come back, your sandwiches aren't good enough, or your price is too much, or your location sucks, or any of the average things. But man, if you fed them an amazing sandwich at a great price twice, there's no reason why they shouldn't come back.
Wow. You know what, dude? That's just, it really does go back to your 4 M's. It helps you determine your market, your message, your money, how you're going to make your money, and your media. In this case, your media would be the coupons, right?
Yep. Now, I've been on the internet actually since longer than the web, but I had a web design firm, and I remember this so clearly. In 1995, okay, we're talking, 21 years ago. I'm so old. In 1995, a woman comes into my office, and she says, I want you to build us a website. When you have a web design firm, this is what you want to hear. Have a seat. Can I give you some coffee? Sit down. Okay, tell me about your company. Tell me about your business. She says, I've got a drive-through coffee stand. I'm like, well, why do you need a website? Now, remember, this is 95, and people barely knew what the internet was. And getting on the internet was really, really hard. And she says, well, when people search the internet for drive-through coffee stands in Portland, I want my stand to pop up. And I looked her straight in the face, and I said, look, people don't search the internet for drive-through coffee stands. People drive to work, and if they drive by a drive-through coffee stand, they consider getting coffee. That's the way it works, especially then. Now, there might be some sort of fancy integration with the GPS or that type of thing. But back then, there was nothing. She said, no, I want a website. No, you want a big sign. You want coupons, and you want great coffee. That's what you want. She said, no, I want a website. I'm like, I feel bad about building a website because it's just not going to be used or seen by anybody. And she basically left. And she literally called us a couple of days later and said, I found somebody to build my website. Well, of course you did. but was it a good idea? And that's what we're talking about here. I found somebody to make my podcast. I found somebody to make my website. I found somebody great, but was it a good idea?
And I think another thing that I was just thinking about is, so many of these higher end companies that offer like Yellow Pages type service where you've got your directory ad, they're going to lock you in for like 2 years. This is another reason why you really need to steer away from them until you really know what your media is, because you can't just test for a couple of months and step away. If you try to step away, then you're going to end up with a huge cancellation fee. I've seen that happen to a couple of clients.
Indeed.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If anybody locks you in, that's because they got nothing.
Right.
Because that's their method of making money. And if you're getting locked into something, that should be a huge warning sign.
Yeah, agreed.
So let me ask you this, because you also, not only have you dealt in podcasts, but I know one of your biggest plays is in video. Where do you see video going to in 2017?
Well, every screen, our computer screen, our phone screen, our television screen, our tablet screen. So, and it's going to be distributed easily and quickly. If your market is looking for media about your message, there's some money to be made. Now, is anybody looking to video for breakfasts in Tigard? No. So don't do that. But is somebody in Tigard looking for information about how to podcast? Yes. Should get some video out there. And the cool thing is it's so cheap and it's so easy and it's so distributed. I mean, YouTube's everywhere. Video podcasting is ridiculously cheap. It's not that complicated. Anything that has a screen is going to have video on it.
And I think the thing that's interesting to me is I'm playing a little bit with Snapchat and I'm playing a little bit with Periscope. Do you think people are going to stick with the recorded videos and upload them, or do you think live video will take off more than it already has?
It's a market to message thing. There are some people who will only consume it if it's live. We talked about that reason to buy the book. A great reason to consume it is because it goes away in 24 hours. That's what Snapchat has that's so great. That's what Instagram has in stories that's so great. But the thing is, do you have an audience? I'm annoyed. My thing is, if you guys tell me I got a message for you, it's only good for 24 hours, I'm going to say, yeah, it's not that good of a message. Like if the shelf life of your wisdom is 24 hours, I got other wisdom I can deal with right now. So for me, that kind of stuff has absolutely no resonance. But for my kids, they love that kind of stuff. And so it goes back to, market, kids, message, buy my stuff, media, money, sell my stuff, media, Snapchat, because that's where they happen to be right now. That's all fine and dandy, but don't just pick up Snapchat for Snapchat's sake or something else for something else's sake. Is your market there? Isn't it funny? It's just not that complicated, is it?
No, it's not. When you break it down into those 4 steps, there's like a light bulb just turns on. Oh, okay. I mean, where do you plan on taking, like, for example, marketing the podcast report? What do you plan? I mean, obviously you're going to podcast, but what do you plan to supplement that with as far as getting your message out?
99.9%, and I'm only not saying 100 because I'm sure there's an example that I forgot about. 99.9% of my business comes from referrals and connections and people I've met and people I've done things with. So the podcast report is just a way really to shorten the conversation that we already have. There's probably 12 people that I owe a call to that we've talked about doing a podcast recently. And if I could send them to the podcast to listen to what the big ideas are, that's only going to supplement my position as being a thought leader and somebody they want to spend more than $1,000 with. So that's what I'm going to do with the podcast report. Now, if the podcast report numbers go up as a result of this new focus, great, awesome. If I get a new client as a result of this new focus, great, awesome. But the main reason I did the podcast report is, a podcast consultant, a podcast producer without a podcast is, the emperor with no clothes. So I have to do it anyway. I just realized I'm going to start serving my audience and not somebody else's audience.
And what can someone look forward to if they pick up your podcasting book in 2017? What can they look forward to?
Well, I've made it ridiculously easy. To be honest, the how to podcast part's like 52 pages. That's it. It's not that complicated. That's what you do with the podcast that's complicated. It's all this stuff that we're talking about here right now that's complicated. So this podcast will clear things up, get you out quickly, put you in a position where you can make some decisions and move on with your life. The email I love the most is, hey, Paul, picked up your book, read it on the way home, and I'm ready to work with you. So the cool thing is, and this book puts me in a position now, I gently humble brag the Inc. magazine, article drop about my book. I gently humble brag the #1 top selling. When I get introduced on stage, when I meet people, Paul Colligan, author of the #1 best-selling, recommended by Inc. magazine, yada, 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 yada book. I use all of this for positioning. When an audience goes, so what kind of stuff have you done with podcasts? Well, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. That's the kind of stuff that lets me charge what I do. All market, message, money, media. And if it doesn't follow into those 4, it's time for me to go away.
Yeah, it really does. Well, Mike, do you have any last questions?
Paul, where can people best connect with you?
Social's probably best. I'm at paulcolligan.com / let me give this tip to everybody. I get very, very frustrated when people say, my Twitter account is this, my Facebook account is this, my blah, blah, blah is this. It's not about Facebook and Twitter and iTunes. It's about me. So, if you want to find my Twitter account, it's paulcolligan.com / Twitter. If you want to find my Facebook account, it's paulcolligan.com / Facebook. If you want to find the podcast report at iTunes, it's thepodcastreport.com / iTunes. I make it about me. So paulcolligan.com is the blog / everything is social. The podcast report is the podcast. And then, of course, you can get your 99-cent copy of the How to Podcast book by visiting, Teresa, what's the website again?
It is sbppodcast.com / newsletter.
There we go.
And there you go. Hey, Paul, seriously, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful conversation, and we look forward to having you on again.
There we go.
With that, this has been the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Michael.
And we are out.
You've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. To catch all our past shows, visit sbppodcast.com.